You know, eh, I always, it's funny because there's always these words going around and, the buzzwords in fitness, empowering people and,
Yeah.
inspiring. But I consider myself and how I try to look at it is I'm just there to facilitate. And so,
Sure.
when we start working with clients, even in our group classes, everybody's got different goals. What works for one person is not going to work for another. And so just looking at like, how can
Okay.
we get this person in and give them something that is going to be sustainable for them?
Welcome to the Kooler Lifestyle Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Kuehlhorn, and I'm excited to have you join me as I interview community members and business leaders from the communities in which I live, work, and serve through my business Kooler Garage Doors. We're going to bring you highlights on characters in our communities. Why? Because community matters, and I want to know more about who is behind our business and leadership in order to understand and support the community fabric that our relationships make up. And collectively, we can build stronger communities that support our lifestyles, our youth, and our health. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Kooler Lifestyle Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Kuehlhorn. Today, we have a longtime local Crested Butte, Carrie Jo Hicks, owner of Synergy Athlete, Crested Butte, Crossfit, and Mountain Goat Property Management. Mom, long-term community member, Carrie Jo, thanks so much for joining.
Thank you. Just a little caveat. I would like to also identify as a gunny girl because that's
Right on.
where I started.
Right on.
And spent my start. And so I'm a Gunnison Valley girl, not just
Yes. No, that's an important distinction. I think that goes for most of us too.
Yeah.
It is a valley-wide thing. So I appreciate that. You're beaming in from Crested Butte this morning, yeah?
Yes, I am. We live up in Pitchfork.
Awesome.
Yep. So I'm at my home in Pitchfork and yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, Carrie Jo, start us off here. Where did you start? Where'd you grow up?
I grew up and spent most of my childhood in Maryland, a tiny little town outside of, in between Salisbury and Ocean City. I was born in upstate New York, which is where all my extended relatives, I've got 27 cousins and third generation dairy farm up there. So still very connected up there. My daughters go and do the family reunion barn dance up there every year and visit everybody. And then my parents moved to Maryland when I was about 2. And we had a chicken farm. We raised chickens. So, grew up in the farm life.
Yeah.
With my dad having a construction company and very outdoorsy lifestyle. It was really important to my dad when he made a move for the family that we had. He didn't want to be in a city or a neighborhood. He wanted that farm lifestyle. So we ended up on a chicken farm and grew for Purdue.
Chicken farm. I bet that teaches some. I can only imagine chicken farming is tenacious. Like how many chickens would be in a chicken farm?
We were a smaller operation. I mean, now they're huge. We were definitely, 2 big chicken houses. So 150, 200 head per house. Very close to the house. So, you got used to a certain smell all the time when the wind blew just right.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But, I don't think that I appreciated that lifestyle like I do now and having those experiences. I rode horses and showed horses. And even though we weren't socioeconomically the same level as a lot of the people that were in our pony club, I was one of the only kids that had my horse at my house. I didn't have to board. My dad was very crafty. He made all my own jumps. And so, where we weren't maybe, rich in money, I had a lot of things that, those girls that dads were doctors and lawyers and didn't have, and so I became a house that people like to stay at. And they were like, oh, this is awesome. And such a cool experience. And I was like, oh, I want to live in a neighborhood with a big fat pool and, but looking back, I am so thankful that was my upbringing. And it just, there was some resiliency that came along with that. It's a lifestyle that you have to work hard. There's no time off. It's just when we lived in a very hot, humid climate. So, that was always an issue in the summer, keeping the chickens alive. And, you were never off. So,
yeah. Wild.
Yeah. Yeah.
How did Colorado find you? What's the summary of being out this way?
Yeah. So my parents were really good about, making sure we had experiences. We skied in the Poconos. That was kind of our, a couple times a winter, very vacation skiers. And, they'd save up all their change in the milk jug, and then we pick a place and every couple of years go out west. And we never came to here to Crested Butte, but we'd been to Vail, nothing Breckenridge, just, a couple of the Front Range places. And it's like, God, that's so cool. And I really enjoyed being out here and skiing. And it never occurred to me to go to college out here. I was like, oh, maybe when I'm done college, I could do a stint. And then one night we were drinking hot chocolate, me and a friend, and I was like, gosh, I really want to go out there. And she's like, let's do it now. Let's do a year exchange through our college. And so those were the times where you had to go to the library and pull the book out of colleges. And we found Colorado colleges near ski towns. And we found Western State in this little tiny place of Gunnison. And at the time, I can't say I was thriving. I didn't move away from home. I was going to University of Maryland Eastern Shore. I was first semester and just not doing well, getting in a lot of trouble. I had a lot of energy that I couldn't put into healthy things. And I grew up pretty strict and rigid. Martial arts was in my background. And, I was letting loose a little too much. So at first when I was like, hey, Mom, Dad, I want to go to Colorado, they were like, absolutely not. And then they were like, you go, you should go away. And they came out here. My mom and I came and visited the campus, and she's like, oh my gosh, small town. We met everybody, all the city market ladies. This is when city market was, over on the other side of town. And, we'll watch after her. And she just felt really good about the experience. And
yes,
one semester turned into 30 years. So that's how I kind of got
amazing.
To Gunnison. Yeah.
I know that story similarly. One semester turning into many, many years.
Yeah,
that's cool.
This place sucks you in, and the people and the lifestyle, and yeah.
So, what did you end up studying in school?
I actually studied psychology and political science.
Okay.
Yeah, and with a pre-law minor in the poli-sci. I didn't know what I wanted to do. My mom was an attorney, and my parents had me very young, so I got to watch her kind of go through law school, and I was like, okay, sure, that sounds good. And just threw myself into that. And psychology, I always, loved the study of people, and had some things in my life that brought me into that world. I lost a brother very young, and so we did a lot of counseling, and I just saw how valuable it was for our whole family. So those were the two things I studied. And, fitness was always a part of my life, but to me, it was a side note. It was just what we did and who we were. With my dad having the boxing gym, first boxing gym was at our farm. We had a full-size ring set up in this barn. I mean, it was almost like a little kind of weird fight club. Like, looking back at it, I'm like, that's kind of odd. But at the time, it was no big deal to walk out in the barn and have a bunch of guys just like going at it in the ring, And so
amazing.
He later moved that into like an old bus station, just run down. When it rained, it poured in the building. When it was hot, it was extra hot in there. But so he always had fitness in his life. My parents were big cyclists at the time, and whatever they got into 100%. So when I started in martial arts, we had a little dojo he built out so I could practice katas. And I started teaching jazzercise at our dojo when I was 13 years old. Randomly, this woman came in and she'd teach right before my karate class, and I was always dropped off early. So I just sit and watch, and she's like, "You want to join us?" And then I started getting into that, and the next thing I know, I'm subbing jazzercise classes. So that it was always a part of my life, but I never thought I'd make a living at it. You never know what you don't know.
That is totally true, but I've seen this continuity, which is really cool, and this is why I love these conversations. And so when you graduated Western, were you in this valley pretty full on then? Did you ever leave and come back, or were you just piecing together the lifestyle?
Yeah, so my first year I went back home that summer, and that was it. That was the last summer that I went home, and then I just kind of stayed within the community. Always had a job here, worked at Garlic Mike's, worked at the health food store. I worked for the Estes. Everybody knows the Estes Ranch. I caretook for Vivarel Este, 90 years old, and that was a real connection with this valley and just the history. And it was, this place just really started to pull me in, and it began to feel like home more so than where I was raised. So and I started working at Rocky's gym. You remember Rocky's?
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I started teaching some aerobic classes and some fitness classes up at the gym at Western Escalante. I was teaching step aerobics, and then I moved over and teaching some stuff at Rocky's and became his fitness director. And again, always a side gig. I was like, oh, this is you don't make a living at this.
This is fascinating.
Hey everybody, this is Luke from Kooler Garage Doors. Just want to take a quick second to talk about our sponsor, Sommer Garage Door Openers. We believe Sommers are the best in the business when it comes to garage door openers. We always recommend them for residential installs because of the many features they have, such as Wi-Fi connectivity and safety features like a fixed chain that runs along a secure rail for a quiet and safe operation. Click the link to find out more about Sommer Garage Door Openers.
I was going back to your comment about working at Garlic Mike's and wondering how many of us have all worked at Garlic Mike's. It seems like there's a large...
Yes.
Somebody, at some point in time in the valley, you're going to go through there.
You're going to work at Garlic Mike's. Yeah. Great. I love that experience. All of them, from working under Larry and Mike to Andy and Mike, and and again another little like community family that when I see people from that era of my life, there's a connection there. We're like, oh
that's awesome.
We're still here.
So absolutely. When did the fitness pursuit become full time for you?
Yeah, so I did a couple stints leaving the valley and just chasing winter a little bit, Utah and Jackson, and just figuring out like what is it I want to do? What is my pursuit? And still dabbling with maybe psychology, but I realized very quickly that that's not how I wanted to affect people. Sitting and I like to sit and talk, but I'm definitely more physical and find just huge value in movement through therapy. And so I came back and went to massage school. So I practiced massage. I was a massage therapist. I was roofing houses for Kenny Marks. And I was teaching some fitness classes for Joyce Rossiter. And she became a huge mentor for me. Like that woman, I just can't say enough. She just was always passionate about it. She was always trying to recreate what she was doing. And I learned a lot from her. and continued to teach for her, and then was offered a position. Actually, I started volunteering at the Crested Butte Academy, and just doing some dry land stuff for them in Kooler, and wasn't getting paid, just went and kind of worked with the ski teams. And then I had the opportunity to go full-time for them as a performance director for the ski and snowboard team. So that's really when I made the shift out of massage and out of all the gyms, and just started working in the fitness industry full-time. Yeah. So at that point, I had been teaching, at all the different fit studios around. So and that was a huge opportunity. I got to go to the IMG academies in Bradenton and do an internship there and bring that back to the Valley and our athletes. And, ultimately the academy ended up shutting down. And it was at that point that Crested Butte CrossFit opened up. Bryce and Kim came to the Valley. When I kept seeing CrossFit around, I was like, oh my, and I had done a little bit of it, just dabbled when I go visit places, and I was like, this is really awesome. I love this style of workout. I like the methodology of it. And so when I saw them, I got really excited. I'm like, hey, I'm in, I'll go get certified. I want to coach for you. And so that was kind of me moving out of the academy and then teaching for them. And I still was doing massage at the time. I never wanted to own my own gym. I knew that, knowing what it took, watching my dad, it's your entire life. And, the first question I asked, because I had a partner, and he said, hey, I'm going to build this building. You want to put your gym in there? And I was like, hell no, I don't want to own a gym. I want to make money in my life. But I was also feeling like how I wanted to train people, what I wanted to do. I needed to have my own facility. There wasn't anything up here that I could do that at. And so we went for it.
That was about 8 years ago?
Let's see.
Or a little bit before.
Yeah. So they opened in 2012, and I quickly bought them out in their original space. Maybe about a year later. And then I think our building was done 2015 where our location is at right now. So.
Yeah, it's a beautiful location. The mission that you're on, you had mentioned, you use the word therapy with movement. And so it's training, but I imagine that it's a little bit deeper for you. Is that true? What is it you actually do with people, in your words? What's the mission?
Yeah, it's funny because there's always these words going around, and, the buzzwords in fitness, empowering people and, inspiring. But I consider myself, and how I try to look at it, is I'm just there to facilitate. And so, when we start working with clients, even in our group classes, everybody's got different goals. What works for one person is not going to work for another. And so just looking at how can we get this person in and give them something that is going to be sustainable for them. So, my privates, I kind of talk about spoon feeding. So I start out really slow and try to just learn this person's body, their injuries, their maybe some limitations. And then we try to work around that and continue them moving forward into a path that's going to, support them for the lifestyle they want to live for a long time. So being young as long as possible is kind of the goal. So
being young as long as possible. I like that perspective.
Yeah.
So with CrossFit, and I have some experience here, so I'm just going to pick on it a little bit because it has
I can pick on it too.
There's a connotation, and you kind of mentioned it, like working with individuals. And this is what I've seen with the great CrossFit gyms, but there's also the point of, folks that do CrossFit, A, they can be the fittest people in the world, B, they get injured.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, how prevalent is that? And what are some of the myths that we might be able to bust?
Yeah, so I look at CrossFit, it's kind of like anything, right? Like you can say, I box for fitness, or I'm a professional boxer. And that looks very different for those two people. And so the injury level in professional boxing and the pounding they're going to take is going to be a lot different than boxing for fitness. And so I kind of can equate CrossFit for that as well. And if you just look at the mythology of it and the definition, which is, constantly varied functional movement done at different intensities and different time domains, and you use that for training your people, you can get a pretty well-rounded fitness program. If you're looking at CrossFit, the sport, and you're trying to, get people lifting really heavy, fast, and specific for the CrossFit workouts you're going to see at like the games, then you're going to be at a higher risk for those injuries. We don't snatch at my gym. I just, I trust my intuition as far as like what I'm seeing. And when I started CrossFit, I was gung-ho. Oh my God, this is everything. But I also am very reserved in as far as like questioning things. And when I started to my certification process and we're there, I'm like, wow, that movement, I don't think I would ever do with my 60-year-old athlete that has never thrown his arms over his head in his life. Why would I start now? And I understand that the movement pattern for them might be good. So what I do like about CrossFit, and they do say this, and I think that's where people miss it, is the scalability of it. And so that's going to look different for him. It doesn't mean I'm not going to get his arms overhead, but maybe it's just with a PVC,
Right.
But to teach people the complexity of Olympic lifts in a 1-hour class, you're trying to focus on their entire, well-being. That's not where I want to put my time.
Yes.
And that's not where they want to put their time. That's different at every different CrossFit. You're going to have a different culture. And you go into the city and it's like, hey, this is all I'm going to do today. And this is my thing. And this is what I'm focusing on. And I'm going to practice the snatch, 8 hours during the week. Then great, but for general pop and our athletes who are just high level mountain athletes, that's probably not the best bang for the buck with their time. So, there's different things when people are like, oh, you do CrossFit. I'm like, yes, I pay. I'm an affiliate. I will always be an affiliate because, I'm doing their methodology. I use their workouts. But that's the nice thing about it is you can use it how it fits your people.
Yeah. No, I like that. That's just being mindful as a coach.
Yeah. And I think we're lucky in the Valley because, we have 2 here, and I think we're both on the same page in that way. So,
yeah.
North and South.
Do you think everybody's an athlete?
I do.
I think every human.
Yeah. That's an interesting one because when people like define themselves and I'm an athlete, well, they don't want to hear everybody's an athlete. Do I think everyone has the potential to be an athlete? Absolutely. If you're human, you have that athletic potential. Now, what are you going to do with it? So I'm not going to give you're an athlete. I'm going to give you have the potential to be an athlete. Let's do it.
Yeah. Yeah, we have the animal body that can be trained.
Yeah. But you got to earn that a little bit, like I'm not going to, if you're sitting on the couch and not moving at this point in time, no, you're not an athlete.
Yeah.
But you have the ability.
Yeah. I copy that.
Yeah.
What are you excited for as we look forward into the future?
Time with my dogs. As you can hear, they're excited too. No, I'm, it's funny. Like I've been kind of battling with this transition of just our culture and our world with technology. And I'm gonna let these guys out. You guys, will you take them out? Thank you. I've been kind of I would say there's this challenge in our society of using technology, using social media. We have this, these online communities that I think can be really beneficial, but finding the balance of how fulfilling are those in comparison to focusing on our relationships of the people that are in our proximity and that we see every day. And so with my kids and my gym, I'm trying to find a more simple way of accepting all of that into our lives and not letting it take over, and not getting on, social media and being like, oh my gosh, there's so much out there. And then it becomes a distraction into what I really value, which is my relationships with my people that are in my community, and there's this, it's in the psychology, you pick up little things from your college classes and you never know what's going to actually come back to be important or what you remember. But it was just the law of relationships, and how many meaningful relationships can you really have in a lifetime, and how many people can you focus on in your inner circle. And, with how I give to my relationships and how I want to be there for people, I can't do that for a huge online community. I can do it for the people in my gym. I can do it for my friends and my family and my community members, and that's where I think we have to kind of balance a little bit, like those two things. I want to be in front of somebody. I want to know, oh my gosh, such and such just had an injury. Let's get on them. What do they need? And that's what I love about living in small places like this, is that we take care of each other. Most of us are not here near our families, and so we become that for each other. And when someone's struggling, everybody jumps in, and you get that tribe feeling.
That's right. That's right. I love that. And, one of the things I've been seeing, you were talking about fitness, gym, that kind of body movement therapy, if you will, is going to release different endorphins, serotonin, and it's not necessarily a quick dopamine burst like the ping on a phone,
right?
Or, the likes, right?
Yeah.
And so it is like engaging the body so that we can feel, and that brings in presence,
right,
which can then have that connection.
Yeah. And you just never know what's going to come up in classes, it's just, you get this group of people, and, like I said, I provide the facility, the coaching, and then a lot of times the connections happen between each other, which I think is just so cool. I'm of one demographic and age, and, I have a younger crew that's coming in, and they're all just kind of coming to the valley, and they're connecting with each other and being there for each other and working through some of the hard things of being in this community now that, we're just different when I moved here, housing, and, a lot of people are working from their homes where, I have a lot of remote workers, like, I'm like, what do you do? Oh, I work from home for this company. And that doesn't allow you to make those relationships that you do when you work at Garlic Mike's, when you jump into, Timberline and Suits On, and all these little, caveats that then become your family. So you find that elsewhere. And that's what we see that we are providing without even doing anything except having that place for people to go.
Yeah.
And then, in talking about that instant gratification, and that's what I think we see more now, and what I want to try to get away from is everybody wants it now. Everybody wants it easy, when you can snap your fingers and get this, and, you can get on Amazon and it's there a day later. And, but fitness isn't like that. And I think a lot can be learned with just in life, staying on that course of small changes daily or weekly, or being consistent. And it's not always going to be exciting. It's not always going to be like, I just went in the gym and PR'd 50 pounds, I mean, I'm at an age that I probably won't see another deadlift like I did in my 30s. And that's okay. If I can come close to a percentage of that to where I can lift my dirt bike up, I'm okay with that. So getting people through that mindset of like, you've always got to be setting a goal and smashing it. And maybe the goal is just to, stay at close to optimum level as you possibly can.
Yeah. Just get in, do the reps.
Yeah.
Do the rep.
Yeah. Quality of your movement.
Yeah. I love that. Quality of your movement. Carrie Jo, how do listeners find you, reach out to you, engage with Synergy?
Yeah. We have our website, synergyathlete.com. My email's on there. My phone number's on there. We're right on Elk, 123 Elk. So stop in and see us. I'm a board member of the Goats, so heavily involved in our dirt bike community. Awesome. You can get me on there as well. So, yeah.
Awesome. We will include that link and email in our show notes, and I highly encourage listeners to reach out to Carrie Jo, do some reps, get engaged. Carrie Jo, I appreciate it. I think that, what you provide in the community is an amazing resource, and certainly the context of your life has brought you here, and I think you're in the right spot. It's just special to kind of see the continuity and from leading jazzercise classes at 13 to where you're at now running Synergy Athlete. I think it's awesome. So
yeah, and thank you for the same thing. We get to watch everybody grow here and
that's right.
redefine themselves and recreate, and so it's been fun to watch your journey as well.
Yeah, I should probably, we can leave it recorded for now because it's kind of funny, but the way I met Gary is worth talking about.
Okay, let's do it.
So I was in Michigan, and I met him in Michigan, and we were at a summer resort, Watervale.
Yeah,
and I had met
Watervale.
Him. Yeah, so Gary, Tom Turner, Darren Morrison, I think maybe one other, but maybe two other guys were all rolling up in a tiny Volkswagen Scirocco after driving from Gunnison into Michigan all night long. And it was hilarious because I was brand new. I was super young to this resort. And those guys came in, and that's when the summer kicked off. Like, that's when the party started, and it was wild. John Charlton was in that group.
Oh, yeah. Yes, all the good souls. And
special.
That's what, attracted me to him, was just like living for the moment and, pushing himself, physically and athletically, and
yeah.
And let's see, we're getting ready to have our 15th wedding anniversary, and together 29.
That's amazing. So, that's amazing. I love that.
A long time.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, super cool, Carrie Jo. Thank you so much for the conversation today. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, have a great day and good Memorial Day weekend.
You as well. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening to the Kooler Lifestyle Podcast. We count on your subscriptions, your likes, your shares, and I encourage you to do that now. If you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe, lower right-hand button. If you're on audio, download this, share it, and we look forward to having you on the next one.